Stonebound among the stars. The corridors of the station shuddered softly, as if echoing the steady heartbeat of an ancient, slumbering giant. Within these metal halls, carved with intricate runes and lined with the hard, dark stone reminiscent of long-forgotten mountain halls, the dwarves had built a new home among the stars. Here, far from the echoing caverns of their ancestral mountains, they forged a future in the cold void of space. The station, its name now lost to time but known in every whispered lore as the Ironhold, stood as a monument to resilience, ingenuity, and the enduring spirit of a race who once labored beneath rocky peaks and beneath the weight of the world. Brommer Stoneford, master smith and engineer of Ironhold, had spent decades tending to the ancient core of the station. He recalled, with a mixture of reverence and sorrow, the day when the metal walls first hummed with a mysterious energy that seemed to breathe life into the very structure of their newfound sanctuary. It was on that day he had pledged his life to preserving the legacy of his people, a legacy steeped in the art of creation, the discipline of craft, and an unyielding love for the forge. Every morning, Brahma rose before the station's artificial dawn, donning his worn leather apron and stepping into the subterranean workshop beneath the great central chamber. His calloused hands moved with practiced grace, coaxing sparks from raw ore and taming the flame of the plasma forge. But today, as he surveyed the intricate gauges and glowing conduits that regulated the station's lifeblood, Brahmer's eyes narrowed in concern. The steady hum of the core had faltered, replaced by a stuttering, discordant rhythm. It was as though the ancient heart of Ironhold was straining against an unseen force, a force that threatened not only the station's delicate balance, but also the very survival of its inhabitants. In the communal hall, where dwarven lore was recited like sacred prayer, and the clang of hammers was a constant benediction, whispers spread like wildfire. Elders spoke of omens and portents. Young apprentices exchanged nervous glances, wondering if the faltering core signified a final, calamitous end. The elders, with their eyes clouded by the weight of remembered ages, insisted that the anomaly might be the work of forgotten magics reawakened in the station's depths, a melding of ancient enchantment with modern science that defied explanation. Brahmer knew that a solution would not come by waiting for fate to decide. Clad in his sturdy iron-bound vestments and armed with his trusted plasma hammer, he ventured into the labyrinth of maintenance tunnels that snaked beneath Ironhold. The corridors were a study in contrasts, rugged stone walls seamlessly fused with high-tech panels and conduits. Every step echoed with memories of his ancestors, whose whispered prayers had once filled the mountain halls, and whose indomitable spirit now guided his hand. Along the winding passageways, Brahmer encountered fellow dwarves, each with their own troubled countenance. Elda Coghart, a brilliant engineer with eyes as keen as a hawk's and a mind as sharp as the finest edge honed in the forge, joined him. "Brahmer," she said, her voice low and resolute, "the readings from the central core are unlike anything we've seen. There's an interference, almost as if something is tampering with its energy matrix." Her dark braids swung as she moved beside him, her steps measured and sure despite the undercurrent of anxiety that gripped them both. They reached a junction where a massive conduit pulsed erratically. Elda knelt beside a panel covered in a mesh of glowing runes and circuit lines. "These inscriptions, they're not just decorative," she murmured. "They're part of an ancient protocol, a fail-safe system perhaps, but something's overriding them." Her eyes flicked up to Brahmer. "I fear there is a saboteur among us, one who seeks to disrupt the very harmony of our station." Brahmer's heart pounded in his chest as he considered her words. The notion of betrayal was unthinkable among a people united by honor and tradition. Yet, the evidence before them was undeniable. A series of subtle but deliberate modifications had been made to the station's control circuits, a tampering so intricate that only someone with an intimate knowledge of dwarven craft and arcane technology could execute it. With a heavy sigh, he realized that the danger was not merely technical but deeply personal. To see one of their own undermine the station's ancient power was to risk shattering the bonds that held their community together. Their investigation led them deeper into the station's forgotten wings, where the passage of time had blurred the lines between maintenance ducts and sacred halls. Here, in a vast chamber filled with relics of a bygone era, Brahmer discovered an inscription carved into a pillar of stone. The runes glowed faintly with a spectral light, telling a tale of exile and hope, a story of a people who had once been cast adrift in a void, only to forge their destiny through the mastery of fire and metal. The inscription spoke of a star-forged covenant, an ancient pact that bound the dwarves to a celestial destiny, a promise that even in the depths of space, their hearts would remain true to the legacy of the forge. Moved by the inscription's solemn beauty, Brahmer felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his shoulders. His ancestors had survived cataclysm and strife by clinging to their core principles, and now, in this moment of crisis, he was to be their instrument of salvation. With renewed determination, he gathered his closest companions, a small band of master craftsmen, engineers, and lorekeepers, and resolved to uncover the truth behind the mysterious interference. Their journey took them through corridors that twisted like the roots of an ancient tree, into chambers long abandoned yet humming with dormant energy. In one such chamber, they encountered a series of mechanical constructs, dormant automatons fashioned in the likeness of stone warriors. These relics, infused with the ancient dwarven magic and engineering prowess, had once protected the station in times of war. Now, as if awakened by the stirring of destiny, they stirred in silent recognition of their creators. Brahmer reached out and laid a weathered hand upon one of the constructs, feeling a pulse of energy that resonated deep within him. The automaton's eyes flickered to life, and in that moment, the ancient guardian seemed to whisper secrets of lost lore and the burdens of destiny. The deeper they ventured, the more the station revealed its layered mysteries. They discovered that the interference at the core was not a random occurrence, but the deliberate work of a clandestine faction within their own ranks, a group of dissenters who believed that the dwarves should abandon the station and return to the ancient mountain halls of old. These dissidents, led by the enigmatic figure known only as Master Grunwald, had embraced an ideology that celebrated the purity of dwarven tradition at the expense of progress. In their eyes, the integration of ancient magic and futuristic technology was an abomination, a betrayal of their true heritage. Instead of working in harmony with the marvels of modern engineering, they sought to dismantle the very innovations that had allowed their people to survive in the unforgiving void of space. Brahmer's heart ached at the thought of internal strife. The dwarves had always been a proud and unyielding people, bound together by a common purpose and a shared reverence for craftsmanship. To see that unity fracturing under the weight of ideological differences was a wound that ran deeper than any physical breach in the station's hull. But he also recognized that dissent was, in some measure, inevitable, a natural response to the challenges of adapting ancient traditions to a rapidly changing universe. With grim resolve, he knew that reconciliation could only be achieved through understanding and action, not through silence and complacency. The investigation led Brahmer and his companions to the heart of the station, a vast, circular chamber dominated by the pulsating energy core. Suspended in midair by a lattice of arcane circuitry and reinforced alloys, the core was a fusion of elemental magic and high technology. It was here that the tampering was most evident. The runes that once glowed with a steady, comforting light now flickered erratically, their patterns distorted by an alien interference. Elda, her eyes reflecting both fear and determination, began to decode the ancient inscriptions inscribed around the core's perimeter. "These runes," she said slowly, "are not merely decorative. They are the very language of our covenant with the cosmos. Each symbol is a promise, a link between our people and the celestial forge. If these bonds are broken, the station will lose its harmony and with it, our very connection to the legacy of our ancestors." Her voice trembled with the gravity of the revelation. Master Grunwald's faction believes that by severing these connections, they can free us from the shackles of our past, but in doing so, they risk unraveling the fabric of our very identity. Brahmer stepped forward, his mind racing with the implications of her words. To challenge the established order was one matter, but to risk the dissolution of centuries of tradition and heritage was unthinkable. "We must find a way to restore the core," he declared, his voice resolute. "If we can reforge the ancient links, repair the covenant between our people and the station, we might yet salvage not only Ironhold but the soul of our entire race." Thus began a quest that would test the limits of their skill, courage, and unity. The team divided their efforts. Some, led by Elda, began the meticulous task of repairing the damaged circuits and reactivating the dormant runes. Others, including Brahmer, sought out the dissenters, hoping to reason with them or, if necessary, to thwart their sabotage. As they navigated the twisting corridors, the whispers of ancient lore accompanied every step. Faded murals depicted legendary heroes forging mighty weapons in the heart of volcanoes, and relics of hammer and anvil lay scattered among the dust, a testament to a time when creation and destruction were one and the same. In a hidden alcove deep within the station, Brahmer finally came face to face with the renegade faction. The chamber was dimly lit by the eerie glow of malfunctioning luminescent crystals, and the air was thick with the charged tension of impending conflict. There, surrounded by relics of ancient craftsmanship, stood Master Grunwald himself, a venerable dwarf whose eyes burned with a fanatic zeal. His armor, adorned with archaic symbols and inscribed with the pride of a bygone era, glimmered under the flickering light. "Brahmer Stoneford," Grunwald intoned, his voice resonating with both sorrow and fury, "you cling to the relics of a time that no longer exists. Our destiny lies not in the cold fusion of magic and machine, but in a return to the purity of our ancestral ways. We must cast aside this alien trickery and reclaim the honor of our forefathers." His words, laced with bitter conviction, reverberated off the stone walls. Brahmer met his gaze steadily, his own voice calm but unyielding. "Master Grunwald, our heritage is not defined by isolation or by a refusal to embrace the future. It is defined by our resilience, our ingenuity, and our ability to adapt. The ancient covenant we share with the stars is a living bond, a promise that our legacy will endure, not by clinging to the past, but by forging new paths in the unknown." The tension between them was palpable, a clash of ideologies as profound as the differences between light and darkness. For a long, breathless moment, silence reigned in the chamber as the two leaders measured each other's resolve. Then, in a sudden burst of determination, Brahmer advanced. "I do not seek to erase our traditions, Master Grunwald. I seek only to restore balance. We must mend the fracture in our station's heart before it shatters us all." His words were not merely an appeal but a clarion call to the true spirit of their people. A fierce debate ensued, a collision of passions and philosophies that echoed through the chamber like the ringing of hammers on anvils. Grunwald's supporters, their faces etched with hardened resolve, argued that the station had become a prison, a cold simulacrum of their glorious past. They resented the melding of arcane energies with artificial constructs, believing it diluted the purity of their craft. In contrast, Brahmer's followers, bolstered by the promise of renewal and the evidence of the core's failing state, urged a course of reconciliation, a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern innovation that would restore the covenant and secure their future. Outside, the station itself seemed to groan in response to the internal strife. The rhythmic pulse of the core faltered, sending tremors through the corridors, and a low hum of distress resonated in every metal beam. Elda and her team worked feverishly at a remote console, reassembling the delicate interplay of circuitry and runes that governed the station's life force. As sparks danced and the ancient symbols glowed with tentative hope, she murmured, "Every link we repair is a step back to balance." Our ancestors believed that even in the darkest times, the forge of the cosmos would guide us home. Back in the chamber of dissent, the debate reached its zenith. In a final, impassioned plea, Brahmer addressed the assembled dwarves. Our strength has always been our unity. We are not defined by the divisions of our past, but by the strength of our bonds and the fire of our will. I call on you, brothers and sisters, to look beyond the lure of nostalgia and see the promise of tomorrow. The station, our home, is a living testament to what we can achieve when we meld the old with the new. Let us not be torn asunder by fear and pride. Instead, let us reforge our destiny, as our forefathers did with hammer and anvil, and let our legacy shine as bright as the stars. For a heartbeat, the chamber was silent, every soul weighing the gravity of his words. Then slowly, one by one, the dissenters lowered their weapons and stepped back. Master Grunwald's eyes, once aflame with a fervor that bordered on madness, softened with reluctant understanding. In that moment, the ancient fissure that had threatened to split their people was mended, not by force, but by the simple, unyielding power of unity. With the crisis of ideology momentarily averted, Brahmer and his allies set to work on the core. In the central chamber of Ironhold, beneath the vault of artificial stars, they gathered around the pulsating energy source. Together, they reassembled the intricate weave of runes and circuitry, each movement a prayer, each adjustment an act of hope. The air was charged with both apprehension and anticipation. As Elda's nimble fingers danced over the control panel, the room filled with the quiet, persistent clatter of tools and the murmured invocations of ancient dwarven blessings. Time seemed to stretch as they labored. The core's erratic pulse began to stabilize, its light growing steadier, more confident. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the glow deepened to a rich amber hue, a hue that spoke of both the warmth of a roaring forge and the timeless depth of ancient stone. The reactivated runes shone brightly, their inscriptions coming to life as if awakened by the collective hope of those who had gathered around them. In that moment, Brahmer felt the presence of his ancestors, their legacy forging a bridge between the past and the future. Then came the surge, a burst of energy so powerful it sent ripples of light cascading along the walls. The station trembled as the core, now fully restored, pulsed with renewed vigor. In the heart of Ironhold, dwarven voices rose in a unified chorus, a hymn to the eternal forge, a celebration of the union of tradition and innovation. It was a sound that resonated deep within every stone, every bolt, and every soul aboard the station. In the aftermath of the restoration, there was no dramatic fanfare or celebratory parade. There was only a profound, shared understanding. The dwarves had once again proven that their strength lay not in rigid adherence to dogma, but in their willingness to adapt and evolve. Master Grunwald, now humbled by the process of reconciliation, withdrew into quiet contemplation, his ideals softened by the knowledge that the true spirit of his people was not in the rejection of progress, but in its harmonious integration with their storied past. Brahmer Stoneford, standing before the glowing core, felt a deep and abiding hope. The station's renewed heart was more than a mere technical triumph. It was a reaffirmation of the dwarven soul. In that moment, every spark that danced from the forge, every whispered legend recited in the great halls, and every hard-fought lesson learned in the crucible of adversity seemed to merge into one enduring truth, that no matter how far they journeyed from the peaks of their ancient mountains, the dwarves would forever remain stonebound among the stars. In the weeks that followed, as Ironhold resumed its steady rhythm, Brahmer took time to reflect on the turbulent events that had shaken their community. He spent long hours in the workshop, his mind wandering back to the first day he had witnessed the station's mysterious awakening. Over time, he began to record his experiences in a great ledger, a chronicle of both triumph and tribulation. His careful words wove together the technical intricacies of repairing the core with the more ethereal notes of dwarven lore. It was not merely a manual for future engineers, but a testament to the power of unity and the resilience of a people who had weathered the storm of their own doubts. Elda Coghart continued her work with a renewed sense of purpose, pioneering innovations that blended the ancient magic of dwarven runes with cutting-edge engineering. Her research led to advancements that not only safeguarded the station, but also opened new pathways for exploration. Together, the duo of tradition and progress became a living example for all aboard Ironhold. That reverence for the past could coexist with the bold pursuit of the future. Even as the station's core now pulsed with harmonious energy, the dwarves knew that challenges would come again. The universe was vast, filled with mysteries and dangers, and their journey was only beginning. But in the quiet moments beneath the shimmering glow of reactivated runes, one could almost hear the echoes of ancient anvils and the steady beat of hearts united by a common dream. A dream that even in the dark vacuum of space, the flame of dwarven determination would never be extinguished. One crisp, artificial night, as the dwarves gathered for their customary evening repast in the communal dining hall, Brahmer found himself in deep conversation with a young apprentice named Rurik Imberfall. With wide, curious eyes, Rurik asked, "Master Brahmer, will we ever return to the mountain halls of old? Or is our fate forever entwined with this station?" His voice trembled with both reverence and longing, a longing for a home that now existed only in the faded stories of elder days. Brahmer's gaze softened as he regarded the eager youth. "Rurik," he said thoughtfully, "the mountain halls of our forefathers will always live in our hearts, for they are the wellspring of our identity. But our destiny is not confined to stone and earth. We are the children of the forge, and our spirit is free to soar among the stars. We honor our past not by clinging to it, but by carrying its lessons forward into every spark of creation and every challenge we overcome." The young apprentice listened intently, his eyes reflecting the firelight of hope and determination. In the ensuing months, as Ironhold sailed silently through the cosmos, the dwarves embarked on expeditions to chart unknown sectors of space. Their journeys were as much voyages of self-discovery as they were scientific missions. They encountered other civilizations, some welcoming and others wary, but always the dwarves carried with them the unmistakable air of a people forged in the crucible of hardship and tempered by the heat of countless forges. On one such expedition, a delegation led by Elda and Brahmer reached a distant nebula, its swirling colors a living canvas of cosmic artistry. There, amidst the shimmering dust and radiant gases, they discovered ancient ruins orbiting a dead star, remnants of a civilization that had once bridged the realms of magic and machine much like themselves. The ruins were inscribed with symbols that echoed the runes found on Ironhold, confirming the long-held belief that the dwarves' arrival in space was not a mere accident, but part of a grand, interstellar design. The discovery ignited a fervor of scholarly inquiry and creative ambition among the dwarven engineers, who saw in these relics both a challenge and an opportunity to integrate even more profound elements of ancient wisdom into the very fabric of their technology. Back aboard Ironhold, the echoes of that discovery reverberated through every hall. Master Grunwald, now a quiet figure in the background of community affairs, spent his days transcribing ancient texts and meditating on the deeper meaning of the covenant that had bound their people to the stars. He came to understand that the tension between tradition and progress was not a battleground, but a crucible in which a new identity could be forged, one that honored the immutable spirit of the dwarves while embracing the limitless possibilities of the future. As seasons passed and the station journeyed further into the cosmic night, the once fractured community grew ever stronger. The lessons learned in the shadow of crisis became guiding principles for all who lived aboard Ironhold. Every dwarf, whether a master craftsman or a young apprentice, understood that their strength lay in the unity of their purpose, a purpose that transcended the boundaries of time and space. They were the heirs of a legacy written in stone and fire, and now they were the architects of a destiny that would outlast the stars themselves. Late one evening, as the artificial twilight dimmed and the station's corridors hummed with quiet activity, Brahmer found himself alone in the central chamber, standing before the still glowing core. He allowed his thoughts to wander to the faces of those he had met along his arduous journey, the hopeful eyes of Rurik, the determined resolve in Elda's gaze, and even the once defiant stare of Master Grunwald, now softened by wisdom and regret. In that solitary moment, Brahmer felt the steady pulse of Ironhold resonate with the cadence of countless hearts, a symphony of resilience that defied the vast silence of space. He murmured a quiet vow to the station and to the enduring spirit of his people. We are stonebound among the stars, not by fate but by the strength of our resolve. No force, no matter how insidious, can dim the light of our forge if we stand together. In that promise lay the unspoken understanding that the road ahead would be fraught with both wonder and peril, but also the certainty that as long as they nurtured the fire of their ancestors, there would always be hope. And so, as Ironhold sailed onward through the dark expanse, the dwarves of this remarkable station carried with them a legacy of craftsmanship, courage, and unity. Their tale was one of transformation, of how ancient traditions could be reborn in the light of progress, and how even in the void of space, the warmth of a forge could kindle the brightest beacon of hope. With each new day, they continued to shape their destiny, proving that the true measure of a people was not in the confines of their origins, but in the limitless possibilities that lay ahead. In every clang of hammer on anvil, in every measured step along the winding corridors, the echoes of the past intertwined with the promise of tomorrow. And though the stars stretched out in endless darkness beyond the station's reinforced hull, the dwarves shone like beacons of light, a testament to a heritage that was as unyielding as the rock from which they were born, and as boundless as the celestial expanse in which they now thrived. As the years unfolded and new challenges arose, the story of Ironhold and its stalwart inhabitants became legend, a narrative passed down from generation to generation. It was a story of innovation tempered by tradition, of a community that dared to dream beyond the confines of its ancient stone halls, and of a resolve that burned brighter than any star. And though the universe was vast and ever-changing, one truth remained immutable, that as long as the dwarves held fast to their covenant with the cosmos, their legacy would endure, etched in the annals of time as a shining example of unity, resilience, and the eternal power of the forge. Thus, beneath the shimmering vault of artificial heavens, the dwarves of Ironhold continued to carve out their destiny among the stars. They knew that every challenge, every trial, was an opportunity to prove that the fire of their spirit could illuminate even the darkest reaches of space. And in that luminous convergence of past and future, they found not only survival but a profound affirmation of their place in the cosmos, a legacy that would forever be written in the language of stone, fire, and the enduring pulse of the stars. In the end, it was not the station alone that shone brightly in the void, but the indomitable hearts of those who dwelled within it. For the dwarves, their lives were a living forge, each day an opportunity to shape destiny with their own hands, to mend broken links, and to cast anew the bonds of fellowship that transcended the boundaries of time and space. And so, as Ironhold journeyed ever onward through the endless night, its inhabitants carried with them the immortal promise that, together, they were indeed stonebound among the stars. The legacy of Ironhold and its people stands as a beacon of hope for all who dare to dream beyond the familiar. In every spark of the plasma forge, in every carefully reassembled rune, and in every whispered prayer that filled the ancient halls, the dwarves affirmed that tradition and progress were not enemies, but allies in the eternal quest for meaning and purpose. Their story, a tapestry woven from the threads of courage, ingenuity, and unwavering unity, reminds us that even in the cold vacuum of space, the light of our collective spirit can shine as brilliantly as the stars themselves. And so, with hearts resolute and eyes turned to the infinite horizon, the dwarves of Ironhold continued their journey, a journey not just through the cosmos, but through the vast, uncharted realms of possibility. Their tale endures as a living testament to the truth that no matter how far we travel from the familiar paths of home, the bonds we forge and the legacy we leave behind are the true measures of our strength. In the quiet moments before the station's systems hummed back to full life each morning, as dawn broke over corridors lit by the soft glow of restored runes, one could almost hear the ancient anvil strike, a sound that carried with it the hope, pride, and unbreakable spirit of a people who had learned that no matter how far they roamed, they would always remain, in heart and in soul, stonebound among the stars.